Hey guys, it's Friday, and that means it's time for me to show you another deck. Now this one I'm calling Total Control. It's a deck that I came up with along with another member from No Goblins Allowed, Monk1410 is his name. He and I, it evolved out of my Grixis list, so we were just chatting one day about how to splash Ground Assault into the deck because it's just a strong removal spell, and we ended up putting it in there and making a 4-color control deck without white, and then we ended up cutting the black and adding the white. So, you know, went through a few revisions, but here's where we ended up. His final list might be a card, maybe 2 off mine. I'm going to take you through a deck now. It's a ridiculous control deck. It's got answers to everything. So you can see the curve down there is nice and good. Not that that really matters for a control deck, but there's lots of spells at 3 mana or less, mostly removal, that you can cast. So we'll just start out at the 1 mana slot, and we have 3 copies of Shock. So I mean, it's just 2 damage, target creature or player. It's really good in this metagame. So we're not playing the full 4 because there's really this deck is stuffed with removal as it is, and Shock is one of the lesser removal spells that we have access to. So we've gone to 3, and what we're doing is we're playing a Banefire in that 4th Shock slot. So it in the early game it's still a removal spell, but in the late game it's a win condition. So there's that's really your 4 Shocks right there. So then we move on to 2 mana, and 2 mana we have Think Twice. Of course, we're playing control, so I mean we're going to be holding up our mana, and if our opponent doesn't do anything, well, we just want to draw into more answers and hit all our land drops. So we're going to be playing Think Twice, obviously. This isn't a 2 mana card as far as the curve is concerned, but we have it in here because we're playing 4 colors. You can cycle this for basic land for just 2 mana, so I mean on the second turn you can go fix your colors, which is pretty important to this deck, which you'll see when we get to the 3 mana spot, and I'll show you what we've got over there. And the other 2 mana card we're playing is Ground Assault. So it's a sorcery, but it deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control. And since we're playing a control deck, we're often going to have up to 10 lands, and we shouldn't be hitting our land drops as we go along. So I mean, you're going to get to deal 5 damage on turn 5, 6 on 6 generally. I mean, you can even get to 12, 13, 14, 15 lands in this deck, and take out a Kozilek for just 2 mana. So it's probably the best removal spell in Duels Planeswalkers 2015. So that's kind of the reason we're playing green. So then we move into the 3 mana slot, and we're playing Dissolve. So we're playing control, and this is a good hard counter. The Scry is just a really nice bonus. So I mean, Scry means you look at the top card of your deck, and if you don't like it, you can put it on the bottom and hopefully draw a different one. So it gives you a little bit of control over the top of your deck, and then card selection is always good for a control deck. You might need a threat, or you might need an answer depending on the situation. And Dissolve not only counters a spell, but it helps you find your next card. So then moving on up, we've got Anger the Gods. Anger the Gods, it's 3 damage to each creature, and it exiles them. It's pretty ridiculous in this metagame with all the tokens and weenies flying around. So I mean, obviously we're going to play 2 copies of this card because it's a complete blowout against the aggro decks. But there's only 2 copies, and one of the problems with my Grixis control was that if the other guy went wide, like really wide with tokens, you couldn't get there with 1-for-1 removal. So you really were waiting on an Anger the Gods in order to win the game. Sometimes they just beat you because your 1-for-1 removal wasn't good enough. They're playing Raise the Alarm on Krenko's Command, Triplicate Spirits, multiple bodies on a single card, and you can't beat them with 1-for-1 removal. Like I said, this deck has the counter spells in addition to the Anger to probably stop a Triplicate Spirits before it hits the board. But we also, the reason we moved into white is for Rocksworn Monk. He's a 3/4 lifelink for just 3 mana, so he's a pretty much automatic win against a lot of decks, especially the red decks. If you get this guy out on the 3rd or the 4th turn, he just brick walls him. He's really difficult for the opposing decks to remove, and the fact that they can't swing at you without you gaining 3 life for a control deck, it's absolutely ridiculous. So I mean, we've got 2 copies of Anger on 3, and we got 3 monks. So I mean, oftentimes what you'll do is you'll take a turn 2 Traumatic Visions and cycle for your missing color, be it green or white, because I mean there's plenty of blue in the deck. So usually getting a green and a white source is a little bit difficult. So I mean, that's why we got the visions in here. So you cycle for the one you don't have, and then you slap a War Monk in front of all those tokens, and they pretty much can't beat it. I mean, it does lead to some free wins. So I mean, it's a huge upgrade over Grixis because you got a bunch of 3 mana cards that can just really help you out, against aggro. And it also has better game against the mid-range decks than Grixis does because of a card like Ground Assault. It handles the big 6/6s, 7/7s, and 8/8s a lot easier. Grixis really struggles against those kind of cards. So, but this deck just pops them off for 2 mana and moves right along. So is that everything on? No, that's not everything on 3 mana. I think I skipped over Resounding Thunder, which we're running all 4 copies of this. It's just 3 mana at instant speed for 3 damage. But when you get up to 8 mana, you can cycle it, and it'll do 6 damage. So it's absolutely ridiculous when you get to that point. So it's because it's an activated ability, it's uncounterable. You know, it's 6 damage for 8 mana and draw a card. So I mean, the fact in a control mirror, this thing just seals the deal because you know, you get in underneath all the counter spells, and it's also another good removal spell to take out big creatures like Arbor Colossus or Baneslayer Angel, Soul's Zendikar, Soul of Ravnica, anything that's in the, you know, the 6/6/5/5 range that most of your other spells can't handle. And Cycle Thunder just takes care of it. So that's 3 mana. Up in 4 mana, we've only got one spell, 4 copies of it, and that's Inspiration. Same deal as Think Twice. We're playing a control deck. We want to hit all our land drops, and we want to make sure our hand is full of answers to whatever nasty things our opponent might put on the battlefield. So Inspiration is an obvious 4-off right there. And that's it for 4. Moving on up the curve to 5. Baneslayer Angel is a ridiculous creature. It's kind of here for the same reason as Rocksworm Monk. You put down a lifelinking creature like this. You can win the game with it, but it just stops the aggro decks in their tracks so hard, you know, to put this thing out there in their way, and they have a difficult time removing it. So I mean, and she's just ridiculous. You know, we're playing white and we're playing control, so we're playing. She's a win condition and protection from opposing aggro decks all in one. Also, we're playing 1 copy of Angelic Edict, so this is an out to. You know, sometimes your ground assault doesn't scale very well, because your opponent cultivates into a Terra Stomper on turn 5, and they've got an 8/8, and you've only got 4 or 5 land to play. Right, your ground assault is your big answer to big creatures, but some of them you just need hard removal. It also exiles enchantments. So I mean, if you see a Sanguine Bond or Angelic Accord or something like that, you can exile that as well. And it's also good against opposing Kozileks because it exiles them. So if you end up in a control mirror, your opponent dumps a Kozilek, you can cast Angelic Edict, and they won't get to reshuffle the graveyard because it didn't die, it got exiled. So it's a good card. It's 5 mana and it's sorcery speed, so you don't want too many. You know, I ran 2 for a little while. I think one is probably better, but you know, you can do whatever you want with the deck. Have a look at the list, see if you like it or not. And let's keep on going. I already showed you this card. You know, the 2 mana function, we can Suggle for Land, but on 5 mana it's a hard counterspell, so we've got 7 hard counterspells that in the deck, which is pretty excellent. And that's it for 5. And 6 mana plus, we've only got 2 cards at 6 and up. One of them is Obelisk of Alara. We have access to all 5 modes in this deck. Even though we don't have any black cards, you know, there are some sources of black mana in here that we brought in off the Tri-Lands just so we could activate the -2/-2 mode every now and then. I mean, this card is just ridiculous in a control deck in this format. 5 life per turn is insane against the aggro decks. You know, card selection against in control mirrors. The black mode is removal. The red mode is a win condition. And the green mode, if you have a Rocksworm Monk in play at 3/4, keeping open your green mode of +4/+4 lets you stand in the way of Blockworms because your Rocksworm Monk becomes a 7/8 lifelinker. I mean, that's pretty excellent, right? So, I mean, we're obviously going to play Obelisk, and, you know, Kozilek is the finisher of choice in this deck. We're going to be drawing a lot of cards, removing a lot of things, and we're just eventually going to draw into Kozilek and kill him with that. So, I mean, you know, there's three main win conditions in the deck, I would say. We've got Kozilek, we've got Uncounterable Burn, which would be Obelisk plus Resounding Thunder plus Banefire. And we've also just got the Warmonk plan. Sometimes, you know, you can stick a Warmonk and a Baneslayer, and you can ride those guys to victory by protecting them. So, I mean, those are the 3 avenues to victory for this deck. It's probably the best control deck in the game that I've come across. It has a ridiculous answers to everything. You know, like I said, 7 hard counter spells, lots of removal, lots of draw, efficient win conditions. It's just an amazing deck. So let's take you over and show you the mana base here now. We're playing 12 basics out of our 25. We're playing 6 islands because the deck is mostly blue, and red is the secondary color. We've got that at 4, but you know, we've got the Traumatic Vision, so you can fetch whatever you happen to need. We're only playing 1 plains and 1 forest, and we put 1 of each in there just as targets for Traumatic Vision, so we can filter out those colors out of the deck and into our hand if we need them. And then as far as the Tri-Lands go, we're playing 3 Necropolis because blue-red is our main 2 colors, and of course we get the free black splash there by playing Necropolis. We're playing 3 Citadels because they have white and green, and we're playing the 3 Sanctums because they have white. No, we're playing the 3 Jungle Shrines, I'm sorry, because they have white and green. So we have 6 tri-lands that have white and green on them. The only problem is, because they have white and green on the same card, you can't always cast a War Monk if you draw one of these. Even though you'll have a white source and a green source, they'll be on the same card, and you won't be able to pay the white-green cost. So to that end, we put in one Sanctum, which has white on it, and we've put in one Savage Lands, which has green on it. Plus, we have the cycling on Traumatic Visions, you know, to help us filter out the basics. So, and then we're playing 2 is a Guild Gates, because like I said, blue and red are our primary colors. So we're playing 13 tapped lands and 12 basics. So I mean, I found that to be, you know, most of my control decks, I found 12 basics to be enough to the point where you'll draw enough that you can play one to curve out if you need to, or just take a turn off if you don't. So I mean, the mana base has been working out really well, and with 4 copies of Traumatic Visions, it's almost like you have 29 lands almost. You know, you wouldn't want to keep too many 2-land hands with a control deck, but with 2 land plus a Visions, as long as one of those is a blue source, then you can safely keep a hand knowing you're going to hit your 3rd. And as long as this deck hits 3 mana, it can cast most of its stuff. You know, there's only, as you can see down there, 12 spells over the 3 mana mark. 13 if you want to count, you know, Banefire, because it's an X spell, but you can't cast it for X equals 2, you know, in a pinch. So, anyways, that's the deck. You know, if you like control decks, you should like this one. And yeah, total control. So I hope you enjoy the games this week, and let me know what you think of the deck. Thanks for watching.